Hello everyone! I'm Lost, and I just got my hands on the new Nightreign hard mode. There is new weapon bonuses, new spicy relics and extra relic slots, special enemies, and a new progression mode. I've played it and will now break it down for your pleasure. But there are two things I want to mention early. First off, I got all of this footage, but I can't show you anything because I got access to hard mode by being a bit of a scoundrel. And after several conversations with people in the know, I'm fairly certain that the video could get nuked if I did, so the footage that you will see here will mostly be generic gameplay with the occasional moving picture. I think that will be fine. Second, this is all pre-release stuff, so anything and everything could in theory be changed. There are 3 new relic slots for you to use when setting up your build. These new slots cannot be filled with regular relics, and you must grind hard mode in order to obtain these new deep relics. I wasn't particularly lucky, so I didn't get too many good relic bonuses, but I did get a wilder specific relic that gave me blood loss buildup on his hookshot. But others in the community, they found interesting things. For example, there is a relic that gives the Executor more stamina and more vigor at the cost of his arcane, which I really appreciate, because that will allow you to enter a match with a different playstyle in mind. Now I know this does exist to a certain extent in Nightreign, but a lot of the time I usually just default to a couple of powerful relics like Restoration and post-damage attacks, and the damage increase after every beaten Everjail. These extra options went a long way to make me feel like the build was more unique. Another relic I found that has a lot of potential is the Dormant Powers Help Discover, and then you insert a weapon type here. Now, Dormant Powers probably refers to all of the weapon bonuses on the weapons that you pick up, so the more weapon bonuses that you have, the more likely it will be for you to find your chosen weapon. I know a lot of people in my community have really been hoping for the ability to choose a starter weapon, but I think that is fairly unlikely to happen, since I think FromSoft would view that as having your build too finished when you enter a run. It would go against their gameplay philosophy of putting together the build on the fly. So this new relic power might just be the right middle ground where you are more likely to get your preferred weapon class, but you still have to hunt for it. Now, unfortunately, these relics were not active when I went back into regular mode, which I pray and hope that FromSoft changes, because this new hard mode, it's more in line with what I was hoping to get at launch. This was my favorite. A crossbow which on impact spawned blood flies. It was a lot of fun. In hard mode, some weapons now have both buffs and debuffs. Weapon buffs are also now more powerful to account for the added pressure of stronger enemies and the potential downsides of the debuffs. So let me tell you about my incredibly dumb first run. So there I was, exploring a hard mode, all blue-eyed and bushy-tailed, when I found a really powerful weapon bonus. I got 60% damage negation at full HP, but the debuff on it was, if I wasn't at full HP, well, I would take continuous poison build-up. Which I thought, you know what, I can manage that. I can just heal if I get hit. And why get hit at all? So I thought that was incredible. So I continued to play, and I kind of put that at the back of my head, right? I forgot about it. You have the bonus, you just let it do its thing. And then I found another really good weapon. This was Starfists with the classic 48% damage reduction on successive hits. Fantastic. But I didn't notice properly that the weapon also had a terrible debuff. It was continuous health loss. Now I was a little aware of it, but I was thinking, look, I've played this game before, I've had the mimic head on me plenty of times, so I can adjust accordingly, right? but because I was never now at full HP, I would always take poison build-up. So I was running through and I was having a terrible time. I somehow managed to beat the day 2 boss, and when I finally went over all of my bonuses in the spirit shelter, I realized that I had been a big dumb. Not every single weapon has a debuff on it though, but this is where the new red enemies comes in. Red enemies can be your standard misbegotten all the way up to a camp boss. Hell, even an Everjail enemy. When you kill one, they always drop one of 2 rewards. Most likely they will drop a blue weapon, and this blue weapon will always have a debuff on it. But sometimes they might drop a red weapon. The red weapon will also always have a debuff on it, but it seems it's more equivalent of a purple weapon, since you have to be level 7 to both equip a purple and a red weapon. I do think I have seen purple weapons come with debuffs, but it's not necessarily the case. Red weapons will always have a debuff, but that might be subject to change. I didn't get to test that out too much. The overall game flow will feel different when you enter hard mode. Now, what we normally do in regular mode is that we clear out the initial camp, level up to level 2, then find a fortress or a camp, beat that thing, level up to level 3, and then maybe we'll go get a health flask, or maybe we'll go to an Everjail. But in hard mode, Everjails are scary. Maybe you get yourself a standard Bloodhound Knight, or maybe you get a red Bloodhound Knight. Now, the Bloodhound Knight is not an enemy that you have a lot of experience fighting, because generally you will just face tank his attacks and that will be enough. But you can't do that in hard mode, because you will be one-shot by his attacks. The same is going to hold true for a lot of red enemies in a lot of major camps, so your best bet is actually to stay in the weaker areas for a longer period of time to build up your strength. Now, I have a theory that mines will be very popular to get enough runes to level up, and I also think that people will consciously now start looking for the fire camps with the giant heads, because they are still one-shots and you can get at least 10k runes for every head, giving you an easy level up. These new red enemies also creates an interesting new wrinkle to the game flow. Because even basic enemies can be red and give a guaranteed drop of a good weapon, or at least an interesting weapon, something that you would consider using, I found myself attacking groups of enemies that I normally would just avoid. And I really appreciate that, because that gives these enemies an actual purpose, instead of just scenery or avoiding them when running around. Finally, there is a new progression system. Now, this isn't particularly complicated. Once you beat a run, you gain XP, and when you lose a run, I imagine you will lose some XP. Since the mode isn't technically live yet, I don't know how much XP you get per match, but the amount needed to get from level 1 to level 2 was 1000 XP. According to the rumors, there might be skill-based matchmaking here, depending on your level, but this is info that might as well be plucked straight out of the wind as far as I'm concerned. I don't know. I also don't know whether or not if you reach level 5 with a solo character, if that will transfer for trios or duos. It's all up in the air. If we get lucky, we might get this as early as the 31st, but that is also simply a rumor that a single Japanese website has been promoting. So that's it. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. I'm sorry I haven't been uploading a lot of videos lately. I've been very busy. I'm selling my condo and it's a quite involving process, so I've been incredibly busy, but we'll get back to it right now. Thank you so much. Kisses.